Revival is here. Welcome to the Real Estate Revival podcast. I am so excited to be here today. My name is Michelle Schaefer, and I have an incredible woman here with me today who's got a phenomenal story. She's been in real estate for 39 years. I know, Molly, that you have some amazing stories. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, something I prayed just before this podcast, I just said, God, speak through me. And it's just absolutely amazing, the adversity that, to try to put this together today, just so I know God's got something special going on.
Isn't it always true when you attempt anything that you feel called to do, then it feels like a lot of opposition comes. And I believe, personally, I think that is by design so that God can shape us and mold us and build our faith. And I would love to do this. Would you share just a little bit about where you are right now? 39 years in the real estate profession. You want to just give your personal elevator pitch to yourself?
That's a real exciting question. I saw a woman about 25 years ago in her real estate office, and she was frantic. She was just like, okay, go here, do this. And I said to myself, I never want to be Edna Malloy. I never want to be Edna Malloy. I don't want to live like that. And I am Edna Malloy. It is really crazy. It's chaotic, but it is truly, truly, truly my ministry. And if I could tell you a story right now, what I'm going through, I have a seller in China who doesn't think he has a week to 10 days to live.
Oh.
And I'm just like, get the power of attorney. He wants to make sure his estate is in order. The woman who's renting his property wants to buy it. She's got her heart in it. She set it up like she's going to buy it one day. And so I've got a man who's in urgent need of selling and a tenant who can't buy it. She can't qualify for enough. So in a way, I feel like I'm yanking it from someone who loves it. So for me now, it's more about, I'm constantly asking myself two things. What is the right thing to do? And what is the moral thing to do? And those are really because I love my age. I'm 66. I can't wait to be 67 because I can get my Social Security. But the more you dedicate yourself to a profession, the better you get at it. So I'm like, why would I even bother retiring? Because it's like a Rubik's Cube. This person's moving. You got to find this one another place to go. And it's like this. So for me today, what a day in my life looks like is just trying to make sure that everybody benefits, a win-win situation.
I love that. And your story is a little bit unique because you're living in Puerto Rico and you're selling real estate all over the world. So will you do me a favor? Let's go back to the beginning. Why did you get into real estate and how did you go from wherever you started to where you are now?
I'm going to mention God a lot, and it's more probably like, because I know you get it, because only God could have written this story.
Yep.
And my father was a developer in the Virgin Islands. When I was 6 years old, I'm from Syracuse, New York. When I was 6 years old, my parents went on vacation to the Virgin Islands, and my mother walked in the door from her vacation and said, guess what, honey, we're moving to St. Croix. My father walked right behind him and said, guess what, honey, we're moving to the Virgin Islands. And at 6 years old, I put my hands on my hips. I went, we're going to St. Croix. Where are we going? And it's just such an incredible story. So what his role was, he developed a condominium, and with no money, just his brain, and it's still there today. It's 86 units, and he orchestrated a team of architect, developers, bank, and he was just the mastermind. Just with no money of his own, he just put the pieces of the puzzle together. And his role was to sell the units. So he was a U.S. Marshal in Syracuse, New York. So he sold them to all of his friends in Syracuse. So when people say, but you don't have any accent, I said, I grew up in a hotel in St. Croix with everybody from Syracuse, So, but it was a great, great, great childhood. Actually, in the sixth grade, we were asked to count to 1 million. And my friend and I set out we had to show 1 million of anything to learn what 1 million was. And we went to the beach and we just started gluing shells to a cardboard. We never made it to 1 million. So the lifestyle was definitely incorporated into our education. And then how I landed in Puerto Rico against my will was we lost everything in a major hurricane in 1989. It was called Hurricane Hugo. And it was much more
I remember
severe than
that.
if a hurricane hit today because there was no food, no water, no electricity,
Wow.
no internet, no cell phones. And the governor went over the island, which is 24 by 6, and he said, he looked at the island. He said, I think this is almost complete devastation. And we're looking at each other like, what would constitute complete devastation? And I was 4 months pregnant with my son. And
Mm.
there's also a lot of, I think the word is patriotism when you're from a place and you, so we wanted to have cruises. I wanted to have a baby born in the Virgin Islands. My friends wanted their babies born in the Virgin Islands. It's just something to brag about. So I came to Puerto Rico because I was literally airlifted out with the elderly, the pregnant, and my friend who who didn't want to have a Puerto Rican, wanted to have a Crucian, said no, and unfortunately her baby passed away because he was
Oh,
born in a tent with no food, water, electricity. So we named our son Noah for making it through the storm. And
wow.
Noah is extremely, extremely successful, and I attribute a lot of his success to being bilingual. So we came to Puerto Rico at 35 years ago, and I that's how I really came to know the Lord because my wedding had in the Virgin Islands had 600 people in it, and I was the queen of real estate at like age 26, and I had it all. And in one night, lost it all. I mean, my identity. So I was in my pajamas for a year because I'm 4 months pregnant, waiting for the baby to come. And I heard on the radio Christian Women's Club. It was a club that met here, and I just picked it up the phone. I was Catholic at the time, and I said, "Hi, I'm calling to see." Oh, just by calling, you're a member, and that's where I got into the evangelical church and got to read the Bible and started placing my identity in the Lord, not in who I am, where I'm from. I said to my sister once, I'm a woman without a country. And she said, no, you're a woman of many countries. And I thought that was really nice because you can literally drop me anywhere and I'll swim.
Wow. So when you think about it, that hurricane really was the catalyst for your faith.
Oh, 300%. I had 600 people at my wedding. I have another beautiful story too. And then to be 7, 8 months pregnant, not have one friend. So my friends had a baby shower for me in the Virgin Islands, and three of them flew over. It's a 20-minute flight, flew over and brought me the gifts, and that was my provisional baby shower. But it was being dropped in. At the time, there was not a lot of English spoken, and there was no GPS. I'm 7 months pregnant, trying to find a doctor with a map, and so it was very, very challenging. But it really, I just anchored myself in my faith, and then if I could get onto how I became a realtor here, I never in a million years thought I could work here. I worked for Dad, and I knew the buildings, I knew the square footage, I knew what year they were built, I knew everything. I knew everything. So when I came here and I looked around and I said, wow, I don't know the language. I don't know when the buildings were built. I don't know how big the sister. I said, there's just no way I can work here. So my husband is a tennis pro, and I was on my second son. My second son was not developing normally. And we kept looking at each other. He's not talking yet. He's not walking yet. We kept asking each other. And one expert in autism came to Puerto Rico and for the army base. And I said, would you evaluate my son? And he said, first, oh, it's normally $1,000, but I'll evaluate him for 750. And my husband was just a tennis pro. So 750 at the time was a lot of tennis balls.
Yeah.
And at the end of the evaluation, it says child is developmentally delayed. And I'm like, we just paid $750. So anyways, someone walked by me, and I know the person to this minute who it was, walked by me and casually said, do you know the San Juan Board of Realtors has a great medical plan? I literally jumped up, took the classes, took the test. Fortunately, it was in English, passed it with no intention of working, just for the life and for the health insurance for my son. And right after I had the license in my hand, another neighbor said, my mother just passed away. Didn't know I took the test or anything. She said, do you know of any realtor in Puerto Rico? And I was like, so that's how I got started was, again, sometimes those adversities, pull you to where you're supposed to be.
Yes. Wow. What a phenomenal story. So if I could back up, when you were in the Virgin Islands, you were doing real estate, but you weren't doing real estate, were you?
No, no, I've been licensed since 87. So the hurricane hit in 89. So I was in the process of taking over my father's business at like the age
Okay.
of 25.
Wow. So you're licensed in Puerto Rico and now you sell real estate all over the world. How does that work?
It's fantastic. It's partnerships. This business is all about relationships, and there's nothing more fun than getting a check in the mail that you never met the client. You just gave someone a phone number, and it's about relationships. I have partnerships even in Dubai. We have partnerships. So it's just
Wow.
a matter because, I was telling someone recently, really, this business is about trust. So once you
Yes.
gain those trusted partners, when I'm referring them to someone, that I'm referring to someone that is going to take good care of them.
Yeah. Wow. Um, let me ask you, I have actual questions. So let
Great.
me ask you an actual question because you your story is phenomenal and you've already shared so much about your faith, how you came into real estate. But let me ask you, since you've been doing this now for a number of decades, I mean, you've been doing it for, you've probably seen
I think we're pushing 40, and at some point you stop bragging. So I had 30,
it's
then 35.
amazing. I mean, truly, in a world where the average person has 11 careers, that's the statistic. So for you to stay in real estate that long is amazing, and I can tell you're passionate about it. But let me ask you this question: was there a moment in these almost 40 years that you felt like, okay, this is not working, it's falling apart? Did you ever have that moment at
Oh,
some point in the middle
oh,
of this?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We lost everything in the 2008, 2010 bubble. I mean, I laugh because, people will say, I started from zero. I started from nothing. No, no, no. I was a negative 1 million. And even when I went to try to do bankruptcy, they're like, okay, $3,000. I'm like, there's some piece of the puzzle you guys aren't getting because I don't have $3,000. So I call it too broke to go bankrupt.
Wow. It's a phenomenal story. And by the way, living in Puerto Rico, you guys have had a number of hurricanes there too.
Yes, yeah, they had a real major one. We had one in 2017, and it was very catastrophic, similar to the one in '89, but with internet and cell phones, and more. We bounced back much quicker.
Yeah, a lot more resources, I'm sure, to be able to
Yes.
bring things to you. And so when you look back at too broke to file bankruptcy, when you look back now, because you can never do it in the middle of it, but when we're able to look back, how do you see God's hand in that time?
The entire time, because I used to just pray and pray and pray and just say, guide my steps, and I have a very, 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 very powerful story, which is honestly, I forgot. I wrote a book and it's on Amazon. It's called The God of the Impossible. And what
Oh,
it
wow.
entailed, but it took me 7 years to write 37 pages. And my kid's like, why did you write 37 pages? I said, so you'd read it. And but one day I had my phone, my car was repossessed, and my phone was sitting on my desk, and I prayed and I said, God, order my steps because I'm a realtor without a car. This was 2007. And minutes later, my neighbor started screaming, screaming, screaming. She was a Muslim. Her baby had drowned in the bathtub. She had a 3-year-old and a 1 year. The 3-year-old pushed the 1-year-old under. But the story is a story that needs to be told because through a series of uncanny circumstances, the baby was resuscitated. A very series of uncanny. But what the Lord said to me afterwards were, I was the only neighbor home. So I've got the child in my arms running at 47 years old. He is he was pronounced dead in the hospital, and he's perfectly normal. So I literally saw Lazarus, but the message of that was, if I had had a car, I would not, there was no one home but me. So,
Wow.
I really, really, more than ever, 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 I think I say it 100 times a day, you know, just like God had a purpose. God, Romans 8:28. Today, my secretary was late, and which she's late quite frequently, but I love her to death. So I always try to go there early to buffer in the event that she might be late. And I'm sure she thought I might be mad at her today, but it was like so uncanny. The people I ran into, the people I were able to talk to, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. There was a reason for me to be here today. So I just, you know what, Michelle, I say, I truly feel like there's a pinata broken open over my head, that I just can't run fast enough to catch it all.
Mm, that's That's a beautiful attitude. And, your faith shines through.
Thank
And,
you.
I'm going to be 53 this year. And, I look back on things in my life that were the result of circumstances that were terrible, that were awful. But if those things hadn't have happened, the great things wouldn't have happened. And like I said, in the middle of it, you don't feel it. You're not experiencing that. You're not, I mean, you have faith that allows you to keep taking steps forward, but most of the time, we're not feeling joy in the middle of these worst circumstances. But then we're able to actually look back, and, that's why somebody like you, Molly, with first of all, just decades of experience in real estate, and then these, that story is a miracle. That's a miraculous story. And I'm sure you have dozens of them. And by the way, we will make sure that a link to your book, The God of
Thank
the
you.
Impossible, is in the show notes so that people can read the story in that book, and you can get that shared with more people, because every time you share a story like that, and I'm sure you, like I said, have many, you're adding to somebody else's faith and giving them the courage to take the next step, or move forward when they're in tough circumstances.
I'm trying to think, because if you read the book, you might not even get it. I used to take a chalkboard out, but one of the things that happened that day was when real estate got really bad, I was always brainstorming. And I decided to create a newsletter. And I sent it out to anybody I knew. And it was all about the Lord and Jesus, even though didn't have a dollar. And I would get people that say, keep it to yourself. I'm not interested. And there was a lady, her name was Dolly, and she's in the book. And she just said, oh, I love your faith. And we were just pen pals she lived on the other side of the island. We're pen pals. And that day, when I'm leaving, there's a lady in white on the corner. She's in white. And I'm running. I had given the baby to the guard. But anyways, when the mother came out with the other child, she's screaming, Molly, Molly. And the lady says, Molly? Is that Molly, the realtor? She's my pen pal. It was her 50th birthday. She was instrumental in reviving the baby. It was her 50th birthday, and she had said
Wow.
to the Lord that morning, it's my 50th birthday. Why are you making me work on my birthday? So, I mean, I get goosebumps because the family was an Arabic family. My husband speaks Arabic. My husband was able to
Mm.
translate for her. I mean, it was just so many that it took me 7 years to try to write it, because you can't explain the supernatural.
No, you can't. It sounds fake. It sounds fake to people, especially that don't have faith. People that have
Yeah,
faith and have experienced a move of God in any way, we believe.
yeah,
I believe we serve
yeah,
a God of the impossible. I
yeah,
totally believe that.
yeah.
And
Do you know what I have to
having
tell you?
faith in this world feels impossible sometimes. So just
Yeah.
having faith is such a courageous move.
Right. Something I wanted to tell a testimony, and I was trying to think how to incorporate it, but it comes along the lines of the question you asked me. Did I ever think about maybe possibly doing it something else? Well, the possible other else would be an internet business. I'm trying to, when I came to Kingdom Alliance, I know there was a lady that helps write courses, and I want to write a course called Buy Your Second Home First, talking about the investment properties pay for your principal residence. And when I was trying to go to your conference, I come from Puerto Rico, Miami. I stayed there a night because going to California was so far. And I get to Miami, and there's a Hurricane Milton came to Miami and delayed my flight a night. And I started debating in my mind. You're going to love the story. I mean, I was debating in my mind. I'm going all the way to California. I've already missed one day. It's only 3 days long. Is it worth it? Should I go? I don't know if I should go. So I finally just said, I'm going to go. So I go, but I'm one of those people that I'm all or none. Like, I don't start exercising and then stop. I got to. So
Yes.
I felt like it was imperfect. Like, I came to this conference and I already missed a day, and I went to the front desk, and the front desk said, no, I'm sorry, that seminar is over. But you could go on upstairs if you want and check it out. The minute I walked in the door, you said in front of all those people, if you're in this right room right now, this is exactly where you belong. And I was like, I just walked in the door. Like, after, should I be here? Should I not be here? And so really, I used to be a real planner. And if I took a picture of my calendar, you would be shocked. It's completely empty, because I just get to a point where I'm just like, Lord, just put one foot in front of the other. And podcasts, I would have liked to have my hair better. I would have liked to have my makeup better. But the Lord just says, go, and I'll keep guiding you.
I think you're perfect. And I'm so happy you're here. And I think we could probably do 4 hours of questions because of all the stories that you have. But let me ask you a question because, being in the profession as long as you have, writing the, the economy and the trends and what all the people say about real estate, it's up, it's down, it's sideways. What in real estate, I would like to know from two sides. What does success mean to you? Is it closed transactions? Is it? I would love to know what success means to you now after seeing everything that you've seen in real estate.
I always say success, and it's not success. Prosperity has purpose. So my prosperity, it always has purpose. Whether it was providing for my mother or my children. And, once the children are grown and gone and, retirement looks pretty solid, it's like, okay, Lord, what's my purpose? And it gets back to another testimony. I could talk forever, but, I had another testimony, but there's no greater joy than relieving someone's burden. Um, I sent someone today $350. I had to think of an excuse as to why I sent it to them, because the Lord just told me, send them money. Well, why did you do that? Why did you send that to me? I said, well, I know your mother broke her arm. Why don't you buy her a pillow? Why don't you do this? And they're shocked. They're just shocked because they're like they really needed it. And it's like, and I'm trying to justify it so they don't feel like, there's pity. But that to me is the joy. Like, I just love blessing people and investing in people.
Yes. Wow. That's really incredible. And so let me ask you this question. So the next part of this podcast is going to be, and it's going to be you speaking to a brand new person. They just got their license and they are like, Molly, tell me, what's the number one thing, the number one piece of advice that you could give me so that I can be as successful as you have been? Another agent. So you're saying you have to do the work and not look at the results, and you have to treat it like a job and a business and consistently do it even when you're not seeing results. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that you wrote um, prior to the podcast was you said, I work on 100% commission. If that doesn't take faith, something like, if that doesn't take faith, I don't know what else does. But I feel, you know me, and I feel that our faith is such a determining factor in everything we do, but specifically in real estate, it's got to feel even bigger. That's integrity. The way that you just operate and do the right thing all the time, whether people see it or not. And one of the things that I've seen, I hate to say this because this is going to sound negative, but I don't see a lot of it in real estate. There are a lot of people who would just do anything, say anything to close the deal, to get people to sign on the dotted line, to get the listing. What? Yes. Hmm. Yeah, that's beautifully said. It is a lack of faith because when we have faith, we trust that God, he knows our future. He knows what's going to happen, and he is, he's directing our steps, just like you said that, like you prayed, God direct my steps. Wow. So let me ask you here as we kind of close this out. What's the one thing that you know for sure about business, about faith, or just life that you wish somebody would have told you sooner? Yeah. Anything can happen. Wow. That is that is such that's a profound belief system. I One of the things that I say all the time is, God, I'll do the work, you handle the result. And that takes pressure off of me to a certain extent. I do whatever God's asking me to do, and I trust that He's going to handle the result. But we live in this world, Molly, and you couldn't have said it more perfectly. People, even wonderful people of faith, you put trust in the investment or the house or the bank or the economy, and you're right. We don't have control over any of it, and things happen. The house burns down when you put your money in a box. You know what I mean? The oh, that's right. There's always, um, I like to say it like this: it's a season, and seasons end. Might be a terrible season, might be the broke season, might be the terrible health crisis season, the divorce season, but it's a season, and it will end. And I think when we have faith, we have a belief that He is going to use these terrible things, to for our good, like the word says. You know what I mean? Even these things that are happening against me, God will use for my good. And my goodness, you have sure showed. Your life, your career has sure showed that. Well, anything else you want to add before we close this out? No, tell it. Mm, oh, mm, wow. Well, you blessed me today, and I know this podcast is going to bless every single person that listens to it. And I just really appreciate your joy. There is an innate joy that comes out of you, and your faith. It's very very evident. I have no doubt that that is why God blesses you. And something that stuck with me that you said that I'm going to steal if it's okay with you, but that prosperity has purpose. That is a that is an incredible principle to apply to your life. You know, it is that is a beautiful thing, and I know that's why you've been so blessed, and you're going to continue to be blessed. Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, that that giving spirit that you have, that is a gift. That is a true gift, and you've been able to pay that forward many, many times over. What an incredible blessing! I think that because of people's fear and greed, and the fact that they hold on to things so tight, God, He knows He can't continue to overflow them with blessings because it won't continue to flow out of them, and you clearly do that. What an incredible gift. And I just want to say thank you for your time today. Thank you for being on the podcast. And I can't wait to get this out. And I know you're going to have a phenomenal year. Thank you, Molly.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Revival Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share this podcast with somebody else who needs to be encouraged. If you'd like information about how to work with myself and my husband Bobby, head over to www.bobbyandmichelle.com. We would love to work with you. He